I'm Dr. Karthik Nagendra. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Demand Farm, a leader in digital key account management solutions. Welcome to our podcast, The Shift. It is a thought leadership podcast which focuses on bringing together sales and marketing leaders from across the world to share their perspectives around the future of key account management. Every research on the topic of customer acquisition versus customer retention eventually agrees that retaining your existing customers is 5 to 25 times cheaper and profitable when compared to acquiring new customers. A key part of looking at your existing customers as a growth lever includes identifying upsell and cross-sell opportunities and thus improving your top line and bottom line metrics. So how can organizations leverage their key account management customer success teams to drive this growth with existing customers? Our expert today is Sherrod Patching. She's the VP Customer Success at Gitlab, and she will be sharing some insights with us on how organizations can leverage the customer success teams and account management teams to grow their existing customers. Sherrod, thanks a lot for being here with us on the show today and looking forward to our conversation.
Happy to. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, our pleasure. So Sherrod, talk to us a bit about what Gitlab does and what's your role there.
So my name is Sherrod Patching. I lead our global customer success management team. So essentially a team of CSMs, if you're familiar with the function, as well as CSEs, which is a customer success engineer. That is a post-sales role that is primarily focused on more kind of technical aptitude and being able to bring some of the technical expertise, because our platform is quite a technical platform. So we are a DevSecOps platform. We bring together development, security, and operations teams into a single platform approach.
Very interesting. So I see that you handle the customer success part of it as well as the account management. So what are some emerging trends that you're seeing with respect to customer success and key account management that companies should be aware of, as they plan for the future?
And that is certainly a piece that we see as we think about how do we ensure the best customer experience as we move forward. So one of the key pieces for us that we're seeing more broadly in the space as well is how do you ensure that the customer success plan starts in the pre-sales process and then is carried through. So I have a counterpart in our solution architects team, which is the pre-sales technical conversation. So really we start with those customer success plans there, and then ensure that we're talking about the futures for the customers we move forward, their desired outcomes, and that we understand the technical milestones to achieving those. And then my team, they are CSMs, but they're of more of a technical flavor, considering the technical nature of our product. They then are responsible for ensuring that we take that conversation that happens in the pre-sales process and carry that through to the post-sale. That's one. I think the other two is really the topic of monetization. So how can we potentially have a tier additionally that is something that a customer could opt into? And that's really one that we're exploring at Gitlab, is how can we have kind of the customer success management continue in the successful program that it is, and then also have an additional layer that looks together at CSM, CSE, professional services into kind of a unified experience for a customer that could help them with kind of accelerating their times to migration or whatever the case may be.
So Sherrod, there are a lot of changes which are happening with respect to how customer success as a role is evolving in companies. So what are some of those emerging trends that companies should be aware of to plan their future?
That are trends that we also too are working towards, is ensuring kind of that success plan creation happens in the pre-sales process. So we have those conversations, and of course they carry across to the post-sales conversation today. But how do we ensure that's documented in such a way? And we're even exploring systems. So it's this very seamless experience for the customer that's shared with the customer, that's documented in systems that then carries through and becomes a kind of a continuation of a single journey.
Very interesting. So what are some common mistakes that companies make when they're trying to drive sales growth with existing customers? And from your experience, how do you think they can avoid them?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the things that I see, and really I speak for my team, which is the customer success management team, but more broadly too, when you have a product that's very sticky, as we do with Gitlab, or anyone else that's kind of in a product-driven, product-led space, it can be easy to talk feature function, and customers want to talk feature function.
Yes.
And so I would really encourage anyone in a similar space than we are that, however, you still need to ensure that you are aligned with their top level business objectives. And it sounds obvious, but actually when you're looking at the teams and the conversations that are ensuing, it is very easy to just pivot to feature function. And so I would encourage you to ensure you understand how these features and functions that they're so excited about are going to lead them to business outcomes, and ensuring that they're on a path, that they're not just turning things on for turning on sake. We have a monthly release cycle with a ton of new features that come out on a monthly basis. Okay. And one of our goals is ensuring that we highlight the ones for our customers that are going to move them closer to their desired business outcomes. Is this going to get them on a path to faster time to develop productivity, or is this going to get them on a path to ensuring that they can drive further efficiencies? So that's really the key for us, is ensuring that we don't lose focus and keeping our customers focused on which pieces, particularly when you've got high release cycles, are going to actually drive that business value for a customer.
Correct. That's so true. And especially in product companies, there are so many releases. So sometimes you tend to focus a lot more inside out than outside in. So that's a very
absolutely
point. So, Sherrod, what do you see are some of the challenges in organization when it comes to account planning and governance? From that perspective, would you have any insights?
Yes. So I will speak on behalf of, when you think about account planning, we have two different processes. One is the account planning that our sales team goes through, which is kind of the territory planning. And then the other is success planning that our team goes through with the customer, or kind of iterates on. To my previous point, it starts in the pre-sales process. But those two need to go hand in hand. So what you want to make sure that you don't have is an account plan that lives over here and a success plan that lives over there. And the two are not, they organically go together. And it sounds obvious, but I have so oftentimes seen in the space where those two things are disparate, siloed processes. So one of the ones for us, we do use Gainsight. And so one of the pieces for us is just tracking the quality of the success plan and actually ensuring that is an evergreen kind of blueprint for the customer that stays relevant over time. And we do that through actually having the managers review the success plans, coach our CSMs on the quality of them, and then really sign off on those. And so we actually have a tick box for a kind of a manager reviewed success plan that has to be refreshed every 6 months to ensure that some kind of level of oversight is happening, and that success plan truly is a blueprint and not something that's stagnating.
Okay. So technology is definitely playing a very crucial role in that entire process. We also see that there is a lot of data which is out there, right? When you're making these plans or wanting to get insights. So how do you see analytics and big data as the next big step when it comes to digital transformation of businesses? So how do you see that being applied to your function of customer success, or even from an account management perspective?
Yeah, so it's very different for our customers, as you can imagine, incredibly relevant. But for us in customer success, as we think about data, I think the key piece for us is we have so much available to us through kind of the product usage data. And so how do you take those insights to drive something meaningful for your customer? One of the pieces that we are continuing to iterate on are maturity scoring. So we have different use cases. So customers would come to Gitlab to do source code management or continuous integration or continuous development, security and governance. And so we actually have maturity scoring for those, and we roll up all of our product utilization into the scorecards for those different use cases to show a customer, compared to other customers like them, how are they benchmarking? And actually that is incredibly valuable to a customer, not just telling them how many active users or how many logins have you had, which is helpful, but really, how are you stacking up against other people like you in your space? And then here are the key steps that you could be taking to improve your utilization. And that is completely data-driven and drives out, not only does it drive value for the customer, but it also drives an appetite for adoption.
Yeah. So how do you see the same thing being applied maybe from an opportunity planning perspective or even a forecasting standpoint?
I mean, all of these things come to the point of growth, right? So where can we see the opportunity for growth? When we think about forecasting, we think about forecasting on potential kind of growth of existing customers, of course, rather than kind of the net new from the customer success side. One of the pieces that we look at to see is, where is a customer potentially adopting? Where is there a high utilization? Where are they leveraging the platform more broadly? Where this could easily lead into a next step. So for us, our pricing is based on licensing or tiering.
Okay.
So you can easily see where a customer is beginning to kind of push out into the areas where an opportunity to move into the next tier would be very organic for them. So as you can see through data where the customer's like coming up on licenses, and that's an easier one, or maybe where they're coming up on a breadth of adoption, that means that we could organically lead into a growth conversation. That for us is key. So we of course use data when we think about forecasting for renewals and those pieces, but for growth, when you're thinking about forecasting, understanding the available spend within a customer account, we call that LAM. So like landed addressable market. So essentially how many more developers could we sell to? We use a kind of big data to determine those data points. And then we use different data points like utilization and adoption to understand where those green areas where there's a very organic conversation that could be had.
Okay. So what advice would you have for organizations who are starting to make those investments in building a customer success team or a strategic account management team?
Yeah, when you're thinking about customer success, I would say actually outside of the growth, if they're not measuring or forecasting at all, start with the renewal. So start with looking to see not just this quarter, but a quarter out. And that's where I've seen us be able to drive real value, is being able to add predictability based on account health. So if you're not implementing account health scoring, start there. And then begin to look at forecasting that essentially takes into account some kind of model that says, based on the health of this account, what's the expectation to renew? And when you begin to do that, not just for this quarter, which typically we see is fairly well reflected in opportunities, but a quarter out, you're then giving predictability back into the business. I think that's the same thing for growth too. So as we can begin to look at a quarter out based on adoption trends that we're seeing, you can begin to help our forecasting ability and get that foresight into where we could potentially go with our book of business.
Okay. So my last question, Sherrod, would be, right now the economic situation seems to be a bit uncertain, and hence the focus on growing your existing customers becomes all the more crucial, right? So what, according to you, companies should be measuring as success for their customer success efforts or account management efforts?
Yeah, adoption and customer outcomes. So we want to make sure not only are they using the breadth of the platform. For us, one of the key value drivers for Gitlab is that customers can retire other tools into this one platform approach, so we can save them money. So really, the more teams that consolidate onto Gitlab, the more processes that consolidate onto Gitlab, not only are we saving them money, but we're increasing efficiency and productivity, which essentially means more hours in the day for the developers. So we want to know that you're using the platform broadly, so that we know, because we know the more broadly they use it, the more value they get. But we also want to make sure they are attaining those outcomes. And so we track that in part through data, as we've been talking about, and in part through success planning and kind of verified outcomes within their success plans as well. So between those, I mean, look, this season is really an opportunity for the CSM to shine, right? Yeah. This is what we were built for, was to ensure that customers can be successful and that they see value from their investment with our platform.
Yeah. So I think that's a very important message out there, that while the environment may seem uncertain, this is the time for the CSMs to shine, and they can do that by leveraging data, technology, and having the right metrics to measure. So thanks a lot, Sherrod. Really loved our conversation, and looking forward to more such conversations in the future.
Great, good to see you, and thank you so much for having me on.
It's our pleasure. For more such insights, best practices, and thought leadership content, visit our website, www.demandfarm.com, or follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter @DemandFarm.